All right, hey, good Friday morning. I'm Vitae Chief Meteorologist Matt Standards. Look what's coming at us. Big time thunderstorms coming in from the west. They don't have as much of the severe threats. There's a little bit of hail, a little bit of wind. The one storm that has wind is kind of here towards the back end. A lot of lightning. These storms are supercharged. They are extra tall right now as they are coming in from the west. Usually this time of year we get some of our tallest thunderstorms, and because they're so tall, they can get a lot of water in them, they can get a lot of lightning in them, and that's what we're noticing, and they're just exploding over time. Plus, on top of that, we're watching flood threats go up across 5 country. In fact, a new flood watch has been issued for northwest Arkansas. I'm going to take the clouds off for a second, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like just with the flood watch in effect that's been expanded. Some of these storms are putting out 2 inches per hour rainfall. I mean, these are huge downpours that are crossing the state line. This is taking a look at the flooding, the flood potential, northwest Arkansas, parts of the river valley, Sequoia, Crawford, Franklin, Madison, Carroll, Washington, Benton counties were included, and then Adair and Delaware counties were also included, and then extend back west towards Tulsa and Veneta. But right now, just west of Tahlequah, that's where our only severe thunderstorm warning is right now. These storms that are ahead of the severe storm, they're not severe, but they do have some wind, and sometimes they do have some small hail. I'll show you where the hail is in just a second, but it is crossing the state line right now. We wanted to give you an update on what's happening. It's about to get super loud across 5 country as these storms start to roll in. This is what it looks like outside in Springdale. You're going to see some frequent lightning here on some of the cameras as the storms get a little bit closer. You can see the edge of the clouds too as they start to overreach and push across the natural state. But you're looking there from Highway 412 Sunset, and you're looking back towards the south and west. So that's what it looks like in Springdale. It looks like in Fort Smith. This camera's this one's fixed. It looks a little bit more west and south, just a little bit. So some of the lightning would kind of be more behind me. So you'd have to look at that side of the screen that you may see some flashes of lightning. A little bit farther from Fort Smith, so the glow may not be as intense as you just saw in Springdale. They're probably going to hit northwest Arkansas a little bit harder first, and then eventually start spreading south into the river valley here in the next hour or so. This is what it looks like from the Fayetteville Square. If I can move this just a touch, you might be able to see, just to kind of get perspective. That's Old Main. That's one of the towers of Old Main. But you're looking at the lightning coming in. So let's go and track these storms. Once again, live looking for Smith and Springdale. Springdale's probably one of the cameras to get the best angle right now as they get a little bit closer, but we'll check in on those over time. Let's use some high resolution radar data. Here we go. You're looking at the leading edge coming into Westville and Siloam Springs. If I go ahead and switch for just a second to just the velocity, we've got a big gust of wind right in here coming into Tahlequah. We'll see if this continues to have a severe thunderstorm warning on it. There's some really tough winds aloft. I mean, you're seeing some gusty winds. Let me try to get a quick estimate on some of those. But that storm will probably dive south and east over time. They probably come into at least southern Adair County and into Crawford County. Big time wind on this. Look at all the lightning too. These lightning storms are ferocious these times of year. We're watching Westville getting the lightning. Siloam Springs is getting loud. Prairie Grove is getting loud as well. It looks like the severe thunderstorm warning was taken off for now. A lot of this wind is just above the surface, but there is still some strong gusts, to tell you what, coming into Tahlequah right now. Let's take a look at hail here in a second. I'm still working on getting some of the wind speeds for you. It takes just a moment. This is taking a look at the hail tracker. You're looking at these storms. They've had some pockets of hail. We have some growing right now in parts of Delaware County. But these storms, as they press east, don't be surprised if you hear some dings outside. But hail is not a primary threat right now. It's mainly now a flooding threat that's coming in. We're pretty dry. We've had some rain on and off the past couple of days across 5 country, different spots. We need more rain, but some of these storms could eventually put down 3, 4, 5 inches of rainfall. In fact, the flood watch talks about maybe even 4 to 8 inches. I think that would be few and far between to get even close to the 8. But we're probably talking about 3, 4 inches for a lot of folks as these storms start to line up. Here's the problem. If you look back off towards the north and west, notice how these storms are slowly moving east and south. if they start training over one another, wherever that axis is, it's going to get pounded. But right now, this is a huge cluster of heavy rain coming in towards Fayetteville and Bentonville. I'm going to give you the timing in just a moment. And then more storms back off towards the Tulsa area, especially north of Owasso, north of Sapulpa right now. These are moving east. We're also watching storms to the south. These were originally severe storms in Oklahoma City. They've really weakened over time, but they're about to spread some rain into the floor. And even parts of Sequoia County got some downpours coming in. Fort Smith, we're dancing with some of these downpours around us too. New severe thunderstorm warning coming in for, let's see, Adair County and Cherokee County with that gust of wind. I'll show you where that wind is again. You can see that cluster right there coming in, registering about 60, maybe even up to 65 miles per hour. But probably closer to 60 with this swath. These storms are moving about 30 miles per hour to the east and southeast. So let's time this out. Let's talk about a few different storms that are coming in. I'm going to get our tracker tool out. Got to adjust the speed to 30. All right. So first off, main line coming in, Rogers, Fayetteville. Prairie Grove, what time right now? 2:04. Here in about 7 minutes, Prairie Grove, we're going to be hit next. It's loud. You see the lightning off in the distance. You probably hear some rumbles of thunder. Heavy rain coming in any time now. Fayetteville close to 2:30-ish. Rogers 2:40. Elkins 2:45. And then War Eagle there by the mill 3:06. So coming in hot, this storm complex is. Now let's take a closer look at just the wind threat. The wind threat's a little bit embedded. I know these storms are kind of all surrounded one another, but it's this storm right here that's the strongest right now with that wind potential and also a little bit of hail. But let's time this out. This storm kind of moving a little bit more southeast. So Stillwell 239, Morrow 301, 321 for Cedarville, and 347 in Alma. Just in case, I'm going to move this a little bit farther south. So if it decided to drop a little bit farther south, the estimated time would be about 3:30 or so in Fort Smith, 3:19 in Cedarville. So we still have over an hour before this thing would even come into the Fort Smith, Van Buren metro area. But the main impact right now coming into 5 Country is just the heavy torrential rains right now. Siloam Springs, Westville, you see that heavy rain approaching. Gentry, you're next. Decatur, we're next to fall too. Exonay, big lightning looking off from the airplanes right now. You're looking westbound. Nasty storm coming in from the west right now. I'm going to show you what it looks like again outside in Fayetteville. You see old, well, it's kind of blocked by the monitors. Old Main's about right here. And so I'll let it do a couple scans. One time you call it up. There we go. There's some lightning. So you're looking almost due west now from this camera angle. You're looking from the square. You're looking back off towards the west right now. Storm's approaching. This is what it looks like outside in Fort Smith. You're starting to get a little bit more lightning there on the right-hand side of your screen. This one looking a little bit more southwest. So you're going to see more of the lightning on that side towards the right. This is what it looks like outside in Springdale. Lots of lightning. It's about to get loud for us in Springdale. If I can move this camera still, kind of show you guys what's going on. All right. So now you're looking due west from Highway 412. You're looking over the Sam's Club there in Springdale. But pretty nasty lightning. Storms are really tall. They're pushing over, they're getting close to 50,000 feet or so when you're roughly estimating them. We'll head back to the radar. The only severe thunderstorm warning we have is the one for Cherokee County and Adair County. High resolution again. There's that storm, that chunk coming in from Tahlequah. So that's right here. This part of the storm is the strongest. If we switch over to velocity, you're going to see those gusty winds. Man, look at those winds just blowing right over Tahlequah. Coming into Lake 10 Killer too. Nasty winds coming over, especially the north end of the lake. You see Fort Gibson off towards the west. We had some wind too. Woodall, and there's 10 Killer. So let's time this again out. Let me get a quick update on this severe thunderstorm warning. Didn't read anything to you guys. Okay. Yep, about 60-mile-per-hour gusts. Nickel-sized hail. Could be increasing its speed up to about 35 miles per hour. That'll change that timing just a bit. I can update that. So if we march this thing south and east, so Fort Smith area, close to 330, Roland 313, Brushy 245, Stillwell 231, this storm coming in. Let's kind of take a look area-wide on other storms that have popped up. In the Southern River Valley, we're going to wait a little bit. Right now, we're watching a couple isolated downpours, quick splash and dashes. These are not severe. There's not even a lot of lightning on these. There's a couple strikes every once in a while. We've had a couple strikes near Big Cedar. That storm pressing into Polk County. Mena, we have some showers in around us, but Waldron, a couple downpours around us to the north, south, and west. Boonville, we're going to be watching a couple downpours for us. Greenwood, we've been watching them mainly south towards Huntington and Mansfield. Eastern slopes there off of Sugarloaf, we're watching that downpour. Poteau, we're dry right now. You're looking west. You're thinking, okay, well, that storm off to the north is probably going to avoid me. What about this one? This one's struggling a little bit. This one was severe in Oklahoma City a little bit earlier this evening. Coming over McAllister and Lake Eufaula, we'll probably get the leftovers from that. We'll see if it gets bigger over time. But I wouldn't be surprised if some of these stronger storms that you see north of Tulsa get bigger, and then not only do they push east, but they also push south. Question is, how much of a right-hand turn do they make from the storm's perspective? How much do they dive into that south wind? We'll have to see. But it looks like right now, of course, the heaviest rain is this blotch right here, coming right at us in Washington County, eventually Madison County here within another hour or so. Crawford County, Cedarville, Uniontown, we're starting to get some of that rain. And then heavy rain eventually coming in towards Bentonville and Rogers. I think a little bit farther south, southern Benton County may get a little bit more rain out of this complex first, just because it gets a little bit wider the farther south you go. But still a lot of heavy rain, still growing north. You see some of these bands trying to grow north towards Gravette. Gentry, rain's coming in now. Siloam Springs, we're getting soaked. Lots of lightning over Siloam Springs. Watts, we're getting the heavy rain. Westville, up and down Highway 62. Lincoln looks to be getting that rain now, right over Lincoln Lake 2 and Morrow. Prairie Grove, we're next, and it's just going to keep plowing down 62 with this heavy rain. There's not as much of a wind gust right now with these. Just estimating on that storm coming into Prairie Grove, that's tough. About 30-mile-per-hour winds, roughly. Breezy, but it's mainly the heavy rain and frequent lightning. About to get real bright. Here's a wide view again. We're watching these scattered storms. There's actually a boundary sitting about right here, and we've been watching this low pressure all day. It's been back off towards the west, but over time it keeps moving east, and as it moves east, it's helping to form these thunderstorms. So it's just a little bit farther to the west right now, near Oklahoma City. That's the reason why these storms are a little bit later than we originally thought. But now they've had plenty of time to bring more moisture in, and they're just raining out like big time. But lots of storms just kind of following this track. I think you've got some storms kind of around the area too, but some of the biggest ones will continue to follow this boundary as it comes right into the Washington County area, especially. So Farmington, Fayetteville, the Weddington area, heavy, heavy rain moving in for us. Let's go back to the hail tracker. Take a look at that hail once again. So over the past 30 minutes, zooming back in on these storms, there's some blotchy hail, but there's not necessarily a massive hail core. You know, sometimes we're watching these hail cores that just march along. We're not seeing that. We're just seeing big time thunderstorms, huge storms. They've got actually a decent amount of hail up there. But the problem is it's been so warm that the cores are melting before they get to the ground. So that's good news for us. But from the storm's perspective, it's trying to make hail. It just keeps melting. And you get some of the leftovers trying to fall. Looks like we've got a couple leftovers right over Fort Gibson. Then you head to Lake 10 Killer. We've got a couple hail pockets trying to meander towards us, especially the north end of the lake, close to the dam. We're going to have some of that hail too. More hail just north of Stillwell and Westville as you go into Delaware County, and we'll continue to watch these little hail cores try to move east. There's just kind of little blotches, so you may hear some dings outside, but it's really the lightning that's going to get you there. I want to take a closer look at the wind. Whoop, there we go. Wow, look at that gust. That is one sharp gust too. So it's right here, that gusty wind threat. You push it southeast. There you go. So we're gonna watch this one. This is our strongest storm that's coming on through. The rest are just, boy, they're strong, but they're mainly rainy and loud with the lightning. This one has the wind core with it, and the wind core is pretty deep too. This isn't one where it just is breezy for 5 minutes. This looks like it's breezy back for at least maybe 15, 20 minutes. So you're getting 60 miles per hour winds, you know, right there at the beginning for, you know, the first few minutes, but then it may drop to 55, but then it may stay at 55 for a while. This is a huge wind gust that's coming on through. So would you rather have 60 mile per hour winds for 5 minutes or 55 mile per hour winds for 15 minutes? You know, the 15-minute one will probably get you more because it's just sustained for such a long time. But we'll watch that gust. All the other storms, I mean, there's a little bit of wind here in Silent Springs. You see this pocket. This one's estimated 40 mile per hour winds. Still pretty gusty, but you usually don't have too much damage with 40 mile per hour winds. I'll go ahead and loop these. What you're actually seeing right now, wind kind of separating a little bit, so we could be getting some downburst right over Blue Hollow, and maybe another downburst in Colcord. That's when you got so much rain going on, you get a wet microburst, a wet downburst, and this core of colder air, because of the rain-cooled air, just hits the ground, and it's so dense, and then it just expands all over the place. It's kind of like a little bomb that goes off, and it looks like we've got 2 of those happening right now over Delaware County. So good wind gusts coming to Colcord, and then another really good wind gust there over Blue Hollow. Little Kansas area could also be getting some of that wind too. All right, let's take a look at some of the temperatures before these storms come in. Boy, it's still warm and humid out there. If you step outside, it's comfy. At least the sun's not out. Kind of roasting you too. Boy, it's still warm. Southeast winds coming right in to bring in more of this humidity. Looks like we've had a upgrade on severe threats for tomorrow night. This one's updated for the next day. So I'll get rid of that one because it's after midnight now. Some of our graphics just change right at the midnight time frame if they're kind of auto-programmed with certain data. Wide view, big thunderstorms coming on in. Looks like we've pretty much hit Prairie Grove coming in the west side of town. Hit downtown and then go to the battlefield and then just head up 62 right towards Farmington. Taneytown, we're next. We're watching some of these storms come in from the west. Head back to the high resolution data. Gentry, rain starting to pick up for us. Decatur, Gravette, there's that line coming on through. It's going to live look in Springdale. So you're looking directly west over the Sam's Club. It's a little bit more southwest. Yeah, you got some good strikes out there. Good strikes out there. So it's going to get loud. It is definitely going to get loud. Live looking Fort Smith again. Nice, very quiet evening. That's not going to last much longer. We've got downpours in around Fort Smith. Live look from the Fayetteville Square. You see over there, so some of the hillsides as you go towards Farmington. You got some lightning out there too. So it's just going to get louder and louder for us. Oh, there's a good one in Fort Smith just a second ago. See if another one pops. You got RFS Ballpark. It doesn't have the lights on, but about there. And the Arkansas Children's Hospital. Right over there too. Wide view again. Just one severe thunderstorm right now, but boy, it's starting to pick up speed. if you take a look at some of these scans, it's really starting to sink south. So this is increasing our chance to really hit Fort Smith now if it keeps this up. I'll go back to the wind. Sometimes it's easy just to look at the wind instead of all just the rain. There's that core of wind. Yeah, it looks like it's starting to make a little bit of a right-hand turn. Head in that direction. Let's get another timing. I'm going to pick up the speed just a little bit because it's, well, a lot of times when they turn, they start to move. So I added 5 miles per hour. So now at 40 miles per hour. Moving the sucker at right through Rocky Mountain. 221 is 218 right now. So Rocky Mountain, we're pretty much next. Salisaw, 252. I don't know if we'll drop that far south to hit Salisaw. We'll have to see. But Roland, 304, and Fort Smith, right there, somewhere between 3 and 330, depending on how this hits. But that's the main storm to watch, the most threatening storm. The rest just have a bunch of rain. And yeah, we have a flood threat, but it's hard to exactly figure out who has the highest flood threat. I mean, Northwest Arkansas is probably higher than much of the River Valley, but where exactly in Northwest Arkansas, we need some storms to hit a little bit longer in order to make some of those predictions. But we've got a lot of ammo back west. See these storms firing up too? Eventually those may also kind of move south and east. Right now they're kind of moving to the northeast, you see that? But eventually they'll probably start to turn just a little bit. Let's see, let me change some of these cameras. So you're looking live there in Fayetteville. I'm going to switch this camera to Tower and Johnson. Kind of forget the Fayetteville Square there for a second. But lots of lightning there too. Looking across Washington County. We may avoid that gusty wind threat for Washington County, other than, 30, 40 mile per hour winds or so. Wow, that lightning. You know how bright that stuff is? That'll wake you up. Big storms coming on through. Let's see. Looking for any updates from the National Weather Service as well. Mainly that wind. That wind's intense right now, coming over Tahlequah. So you see the one warning we have. Storms around the storm. There's almost kind of a backwards C shape of other storms. We'll see how that kind of interacts. Right now, it has dropped so much rain that there's cold air right here. Here on the backside, there's colder air. And so colder air acts like a shovel or a wedge, and it's now forcing this thing to start to drop south because it's just put down so much water already. And lots of lightning there too. Sometimes little hailstones trying to fall out of the storm. Don't be surprised if a new severe thunderstorm warning comes out that comes more towards Sequoyah County and probably still southern Adair County too. But this thing's really starting to drop south. Let us know what you guys are seeing or hearing. Probably just stay in bed and hear all the lightning that's out there. Back to high resolution data. Lots of little pop-ups throughout the River Valley right now. We've got a couple south of Poteau. They're just south of Heavener and Howe and Worcester. Kind of on your way to Big Cedar. Big Cedar's about there, so we're getting skimmed in Big Cedar. Mixing town names now. Tallahena, watching some downpours off towards our west. Poteau, Kavanaugh Hill, looking back west too. More of these downpours surrounding us in Waldron, but they're just producing a little bit of rain and they pass on by. It's going to take a while before the Southern River Valley gets more activity, but there's going to be scattered storm chances all the way pretty much through the overnight hours and into the time you're waking up tomorrow morning. In fact, I checked with meteorologist Zach Scott, in the morning throughout 5 News this morning. So they start at 4:30. They'll go all the way through 7, and then they'll have some hits after 7 o'clock too with CBS this morning. But there's likely to be scattered storms here for a while. They'll come in different waves. They'll be on and off. You'll get a break, and then more storms will come in. But here's that gust coming right through, dropping south. I'll get an estimate. Some new wind speeds on this. Measuring about 58. Really stands out on the radar, doesn't it? For example, you zoom out, you can see that wind. That green color shows you winds that are headed towards Fort Smith. They're headed southeast, and so that's aligned directly with the storm as it moves south and east too. Skimming right over Lake Tenkiller, but Sequoyah County, we're next. So southern Adair County, northern Sequoyah County. So brushy, we'll be watching this storm. Salisaw, this thing's gonna get close. We'll probably get some scattered rain out of it. We've already had some rain. We've had some rumbles of thunder over us right now in Salisaw. If you look closely, you see the lightning strikes over us. But that core wind threat is moving south. Storms in the north, they're putting down little microbursts. We saw some of those across Delaware County. These are moving east, but the bigger threat is just a lot of heavy rain. And if you get some of these and it continues to rain throughout the overnight, that flooding threat will go up. Watching some downpours come in to Washington County. Lots of lightning for us too, as the storm gets closer and closer. Take another look at the hail. Now this is accounting for the hail that we have already seen too. So it shows some of the latest scans and also shows some of the old scans. I know it looks messy. I'll show you the current scans here in a moment, but you can see where we've had hail overall in general. East of Tulsa, west of the state line. So Fort Gibson, north of Lake Tenkiller, Little Kansas. Blue Hollow, we had some of that hail earlier. And Tahlequah too. So I'll take off the previous hail, show you just where the current hail pockets are now. Got a little bit of hail trying to track into northeastern Washington County, southwestern Benton County. Looks like over Salem Springs, trying to watch a little bit of hail mix in with the heavy rain. And I tell you what, sometimes it's hard for the radar beam to figure out the hail sizes and if there is hail, because these raindrops are a little bit larger than normal. These July storms are super water loaded right now. We're so humid, you guys, in multiple levels of the atmosphere. Storm tracks now over us, keeping us the relative humidity a little bit higher. There's just a lot of water up there. These raindrops fall. They have a longer distance to fall just because the storms are taller. And so what happens is these raindrops start colliding with one another and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so you're watching massive raindrops coming down in western Washington County and western Benton County. Now there still could be some hail mixed in, but sometimes the radar beam, once the raindrops get so big, it thinks, okay, is that small hail or is that just really large rain? It's kind of hard to say unless you're actually in the storm. So let us know what you guys are seeing. You got a little bit of a small hail pocket or just really large raindrops coming towards Weddington. Just kind of blew through the Cincinnati area there. And you look back west, we've got some more, looks like we had a little bit of maybe a little bit of hail just north of Salisaw. But they're north of Tenkiller. Tenkiller's right here. You see Cookson, Caney Ridge. Let's see. Watching some of that head towards Keys. Rocky Mountain will be next, and Adair County too. I'll head back to sweeping radar, high resolution. A lot of good rainfall coming in. I want to show you what it looks like outside again. Live look in Springdale. So as these storms get closer, you'll finally start seeing some of the actual bolts themselves. So when they're farther away, you're usually just seeing some of the general flashes of the atmosphere. But now they're starting to get a little bit more defined. This is what it looks like now outside in Johnson. Lots of lightning there too. Very loud coming into the Blessings Golf Course. Right there to Johnson, the new Main Street that they're building in Johnson. And then west side in Fayetteville too. In fact, the lightning's so bright it's really messing with our camera right now as it tries to refocus, because there's an autofocus feature on it now. Once again, a live look in Springdale. And I think we had one more. Here's Johnson. Okay, there's Fort Smith. Fort Smith we'll be watching too. Now, let's see what it looks like. You can see a couple flashes there. We also have our Mercy Fort Smith cam. Now this one is looking a little bit more towards the west rather than the southwest. Yeah, let me change the banner really quick. Oh, there you go. Now you're starting to see some. All right, so there's the Mercy camera. Coming towards Fort Smith. Especially that gusty wind threat that's dropping south right now. We still have, what time is it, 2:28? Probably still have at least 45 minutes before it would get into town. Maybe even a full hour. Getting close to 3:30 is when that storm would eventually come in. But good lightning there as you're looking up and down Rogers Avenue. So this is from the Mercy Hospital there, right off Rogers Avenue. You've got 540 kind of on the other side of this little hill. You kind of go up for a second, and then you meet 540. Live looking Springdale, lots of lightning as you look into Arvest Ballpark and the Children's Hospital. And you start to see some definition with the clouds too. Now right now we're not noticing any rotation or anything like that. It's really just kind of something to look at, something to wake up to. But these storms, at least for the ones coming into Benton, Washington counties, are not severe. They're just putting down a lot of rain, a lot of lightning. Their bark is worse than their bite. Very loud, just trying to wake up folks across the metros. It's this windstorm a little bit farther south and west, right in here. This is the windstorm. But there may be a couple signs of it trying to weaken. Notice how it was kind of crisp earlier. It's starting to run into other storms trying to fire, which impacts it. But then look at the southern appendage that's kind of forming too. So the wind may be decreasing a little bit, and then right along the leading edge, I don't have as much lightning. There's still a lot of lightning on the backside. Let's see. There's that wind. See it evolve over time. See it diving south and east. There might be slight weakening as it gets into southern Adair County. Here we are in Brushy. We're watching. I've done some school visits in Brushy. Always give us a hat. Good people up there. But here we go. It's coming in next, moving southeast. That wind core is going to stay away from northwest Arkansas. When you're looking at winds headed into northwest Arkansas, we've got some gusts. We've got maybe a couple little microbursts in these storms as just heavy rain comes down. That heavy rain's just now coming into X and A. Farmington, it looks like we've got maybe some of that rain here. Almost, yep. There's that rain approaching right over Farmington, Prairie Grove. We're in the thick of things now. May already be lightening up in Lincoln for a second, but look back towards the west, Lincoln. Much more rain. Here's Lincoln. Much more rain back westbound into Oklahoma. So we're not done. This is not just one storm that blows through and then we're done. We're going to be watching scattered storms develop throughout much of the overnight time frame. National Weather Service putting out what's called a special weather statement for all of northwest Arkansas, Benton County, Washington County, parts of Madison, Carroll counties, for 40-mile-per-hour winds. So not severe, but that's still pretty gusty. That'll still probably mix the atmospheres and the trees around, and you're probably going to have some limbs down just with the 40-mile-per-hour winds. But it's this storm that's the one to kind of watch the most. No rotations with it right now on any kind of edge. Just some straight line winds coming right towards Cherry Tree, Rock Mountain. We're pushing through. Most of it is leaving Lake Tenkiller now. We're trying to wrap up over Tenkiller. It may still be that kind of breezy on the north end of the lake there towards Cookson for another 5 minutes or so, but a lot of this wind's pushing east away from the lake now. It's going to be hitting up and down 59 from Peavine to Stillwell, Cherry Tree, and Greasy. Brushy, we could get skimmed by this one too. See if there's any other updates. Not seeing anything specifically. There's some more of that hail. Something to watch coming towards Fayetteville. Once again, Hard for the radar to figure out this large hail, or sorry, small hail, or very large raindrops. Probably a mix of the two, but with this gray color showing you kind of a pocket that's now formed. So don't be surprised if you hear some dings outside in the Fayetteville area coming here shortly. Farmington, maybe a little bit of small hail for us too. Greenland will watch out. Right over Drake Field, you got the museum there, Military Air Museum. Up and down I-49. We're going to be watching some of that hail too. Right now it's kind of headed towards Mount Kessler area. And then eventually maybe skimming towards the university too. There's Johnson, Springdale. We're just watching heavy rain come at us right now. See that heavy rain marching eastbound. This is what it looks like outside in Johnson. Sometimes the flashes are just so bright, it takes the camera a second to kind of figure out what it's doing, and it pauses sending data for a second, but boy, it's loud out there. Crazy sight. These storms are supercharged. There is a lot of lightning in these as they're coming in. They're just so tall. They're so tall. So you've got better chances for hail, especially upstairs, and raindrops going around everywhere. You're supercharging these storms. Are so tall. They're some of our tallest storms of the year because the atmosphere is warmer this time of year, and you know how warm things expand. So in the summer, our atmosphere is just bigger, and so we watch bigger storms. But sometimes the hail doesn't actually make its way all the way to the ground because it's so warm, it also melts. But while it's upstairs, they're all colliding, and this is what you get. A lot of lightning over Johnson, a lot of lightning coming into Fort Smith here shortly. You're looking up and down Rogers Avenue, storms approaching us here within the next 30 to 45 minutes. They'll be getting a little bit closer. We've watched some other downpours around Fort Smith, but that main wind core is coming at us next. And live look in Springdale, looking towards Arvest Ballpark and the Children's Hospital. Bright skies out there, just lightning bolt after lightning bolt, waking us up. Once again, flood watch now in effect for northwest Arkansas and parts of the River Valley. I'll show you what that looks like again. Let's see. The green color, that's not the radar, this darker green on the map. Flood watch. Franklin, Crawford, Sequoia, Delaware, Adair, Benton, Washington, Carroll, and Madison counties. That's where we have the flood watch in effect. I'll read it to you too. I don't remember exactly what was all issued underneath it when it was first released. All right, excessive rainfall is possible. Multiple storms. Flood watch expires at 10 a.m. So we still have scattered storm chances into the morning. So that's why you want to check it with meteorologist Zach Scott before you actually walk out the door tomorrow. Because if more storms keep firing off north of Tulsa, right now they're kind of moving east. But don't be surprised once they put down a lot of rain, they start to make a right-hand turn from their perspective. From the mass perspective, that right-hand turn is a south turn. And so if that takes place, yeah, you get a good wave coming at us. I think we're taking a couple bumps with the lightning here too. So you may see the thing go in and out just a little bit. But Trevor, are you good in there? You get any bumps or anything? Okay, good. Just checking up on you. Let's see. It also says there could be excessive runoff in some of the rivers around northwest Arkansas and the mountains. But rainfall amounts up to 5 inches could be possible in a few areas. It's going to be very easy to pick up even 2 inches, 2 or 3 inches. 5 inches, that'll be very selective where that probably forms. Let's see if I can get... Yeah, look at some of these rainfall rates. So 2 inches an hour, 1 inch an hour, 1 to 2 inches an hour is coming down right now in some of these storms. So you get that for just a couple hours overnight tonight, and you're easily talking a few inches, maybe up to a handful of inches. Back with the clouds, still severe thunderstorm warning. That warning goes until expires in 7 minutes. We'll see if a new one's pushed out. It does look like this storm has weakened its wind just a touch. Let's take another look at the wind itself. So there's that wind again. I'm getting estimates of, from the radar, 55, 56. You need to hit 58 for severe thunderstorm warning. You can easily have a gust that does that. Looks like we're in the mid-50s right now, so we'll see if another warning's issued. It's kind of borderline, right? If you're only 3 miles per hour from the crush threshold, do you go ahead and activate one? Kind of trying to figure that out. There's a lot of wind above right now, not just at the ground. The radar can take estimates at different parts. And let's see. If we tilt this thing up. Yeah, probably closer to 60 higher up. So it looks like they're towards Rocky Mountain is where some of the higher wind speeds are above, but the ground looks like the core of the wind is kind of in here. Right in here, right along that leading edge. But once the wind comes through, it stays out for a while. Look how wide this thing is. I mean, you're talking 15 miles wide. Yeah, 15, 18, you see the difference. So that'll be windy for a little bit. Probably at least 20 minutes once it hits your town. Here's another timeline. As it moves south and east, Fort Smith 320, Roland 311, Uniontown 304. But Stillwell, knocking on our door right now. It's 240, 239 is what I got on my clock. Brushy 249. So we'll see how this thing moves. We'll see if this is reissued by National Weather Service as well. This storm's kind of taking a right-hand turn. A lot of storms will do this. So originally it was moving, then now it's kind of turning a little bit more like this. So this one will probably impact more the Fort Smith Van Buren area, avoiding the metros of northwest Arkansas, but we still have a lot of those wind pockets too, up to 40-mile-per-hour winds coming along that leading edge. Here's back to the rain as it's pushing on through up and down Highway 62, Farmington. We're now getting soaked. It's crossing over the Weddington and the MLK exit right now, Razorback Stadium, U of A, rain about to pick up. Lots of lightning out there too. This is what it looks like outside in Springdale, and this is like, I look outside in Fort Smith. Hey, meteorologist Zach Scott, he has arrived. He just got excited. There's storms coming in. We've been looking at some of these cameras, Zach, and they're noisy and they're bright. Live look in Johnson again. Just constant flashes of lightning as this storm comes in. This one is a lot louder than it is impactful. This one is pretty noisy, but the winds are about 40 miles per hour, not noticing too much hail. There could be penny-sized hail on some of the bigger rain shafts that are coming on in, but it's mainly just loud, and we've got heavy rain coming in. Flood watch continues until 10 a.m. Big raindrops coming in with this storm too. Live look in Fort Smith again, up and down Rogers Avenue. You're watching some of these storms get closer and closer. Fort Smith, that timing was about 3:20, so here in about 40 minutes, we'll be watching that storm get closer. It may be the gustiest on the north side of Fort Smith and into Van Buren, but we'll track it for you as it gets a little bit closer. Kind of looking at some wind speeds off. And that pocket of wind that's coming towards Fort Smith right now is registering just about 50 miles per hour. Got a 52. Has weakened just a little bit, but it's this thunderstorm that, this is the thunderstorm that has most of the wind. Right in here. All the other thunderstorms are just really noisy. Look at that lightning pocket that's coming in towards Fayetteville. And you can see how the lightning stretches out. Notice how we're already getting lightning strikes over Dixon Street and up and down College Ave, and the rain hasn't really started yet. It's about to. But this is why we talk about, if you hear thunder, If you hear thunder roars, go indoors because these lightning strikes stretch out ahead of the storm by a few miles, up to 10 miles a lot of times. But we're watching that lightning get closer to Fayetteville, already kind of hitting Johnson and Tawnytown, Springdale. We're next. You go north into Bentonville and Rogers, rain coming in Centerton, Bentonville West High School, X&A starting to get some of that heavy rain too. Then the lightning's going to pick up. Lots of lightning just south and east of Gentry. They're in the Heifel and Cave Springs area. Lots of lightning for us. Here's Pinnacle. We'll be watching that rain come here within the, let's time this out. Just a little bit of a slower speed. I'm going to drop this down to 30 miles per hour. Bentonville 253. So that's more talking about downtown Bentonville. Centerton already starting to get some of that rain on the west side, but Bentonville, downtown, Crystal Bridges, there in about 10 minutes. Little Flock 302. Pea Ridge 311. So here in about just under 30 minutes, we'll be getting some of that heavy rain in Pea Ridge. And as you get to Hinesville, about 319. But you can also see it coming into the western shores of Beaver Lake there from downtown Rogers, probably close to about 310. So here in about 20, 30 minutes, downtown Rogers, Prairie Creek coming to the western sides, Beaver Lake here in about 30 minutes or so. Once you get to Pleasant Grove Road, rain coming in very shortly here within the next 5 or 10 minutes. So west side of Rogers, rain starting to move in. Pinnacle, rain about 5 minutes away as it marches in from the west. Lots of lightning there too. All right, let's see. Severe thunderstorm warning for Adair County expires any moment from now. We'll see if that one gets updated. The wind has dropped on this storm. This storm right here, right in here. This storm has weakened a little bit. Earlier, we were talking about 65 mile per hour winds that we were estimating. Now we're down to about 50, 52, 55. Could still pick up strength as it makes that dive southbound. Gust of wind, especially on the south side, you're starting to see that inflow too. You're watching these storms feed right into it. You got that low-level jet coming in to help feed these storms right now. All right, so trying to see. All right, National Weather Service has went ahead and let that warning expire. You're going to see it on our maps here in a second. So right now, lots of heavy rain, lots of lightning. What we're going to do here really quick, we're going to do a quick reset. Zach and I are going to go through a couple weather things as we watch these storms come in. We'll probably have more updates throughout the morning for you, letting you know how these storms are evolving. But right now, we're watching some pretty good gusty winds right now over Adair County. They're pushing south into Sequoia County. Fort Smith here in the next 30, 40 minutes. We'll give you more updates as it gets a little bit closer. But they'll hit Brushy and Salisaw first, then coming into Van Buren, Fort Smith. We also have just a lot of downpours with these storms too. But no longer do we have a severe thunderstorm warning at this time. We're just getting a lot of lightning. There's a really good lightning pocket coming into Fayetteville right now. That's not a severe storm. We probably have some hailstones mixing in. And just one more check on some of the hail. Once again, it's hard for the radar to right now figure out what are small hailstones and what are just massive raindrops with these super tall storms. But there could be a little bit of hail mixed in with that cell that has a lot of that lightning coming in at Fayetteville. You may hear some tings outside. Maybe penny-sized hail coming in there towards Farmington. Maybe a little also hail coming towards X&A right now, towards the runway. We'll watch that. We'll watch that. You go a little bit farther south. We don't have as much hail in the pocket of storm that's just mainly wind. It's mainly a wind threat. You see Lake Tenkiller, left Fort Gibson. This one has some heavy rain, but it's mainly gusty winds that are headed towards Fort Smith. Just heavy rain, and maybe a little bit of hail, lots of lightning coming towards Fayetteville. We'll check one more time on the iCams. I'll show you what it looks like outside. And Johnson, just frequent lightning out there, just bolt after bolt. Live look in Fort Smith, down Rogers Avenue. You're looking back off towards the west and a little bit even northwest. You're going to see these flashes get a little bit brighter over time as the storm gets closer to the fort. And then a live look in Springdale. Lightning pretty much over us. That storm is knocking on our doorsteps. It's already hit Tawnytown. It's coming up Highway 412 right now. It's just on the other side of Arvest Ballpark. Here in a moment, this camera will be a little bit hard to see because we'll probably get a lot of rain. So we'll keep it here just for a second. Watching the aerodrome there still on the Children's Hospital. That'll probably disappear here in a moment as the heavy rain starts to come in. You're seeing how the horizon gets a little bit fuzzier. And we can kind of still see it because it's just so bright out there with just repeated flashes of lightning. But we got a couple new apartment complexes out there outside of Arvest Ballpark. There's some of that heavy rain coming in. Wind speeds up to about 40 miles per hour coming into Springdale and Fayetteville. A couple now raindrops on the lens, so we'll lose the shot in just a second. I'm going to move this camera just a little bit. You're looking over Sam's Club. There's Highway 412. See how it gets hazy again. There's that rain starting to come in. Look a little bit farther north. You might even see the shelf cloud from this perspective because you start to get a little bit more of an edge. Right in there, there's your shelf cloud. Gusty winds, about 40 mile per hour winds, coming right into Bentonville and in Rogers. There's your shelf cloud. So scary looking clouds as they're marching eastbound. But boy, this one is just bright and it is loud. These things are tall. And lots of heavy rain. It's going to flood watch in effect for northwest Arkansas because there's a lot of rain in these storms. You feel the humidity out there. It's humid for much of the storm going all the way up north. There it is. You see that? See, there's the edge. It kind of wraps off towards the north. But right now, we're not seeing any kind of rotations with this storm. We'll let you know if anything like that changes. Most of the time, we're really just watching out for a lot of lightning bolts flying around and some gusty winds at times. That tornado threat is low, but we'll continue to watch these as they move east. This is a live look outside. Once again in Johnson. Coming right over the Blessings Golf Course. You can see some of that fuzz again. So it's going to hit the lens here in a second, kind of whapping it like a wet sponge. Live looking Fort Smith, down Rogers Avenue. We have a little bit ways to go. So once again, we're going to regroup here for a second, but we're just watching strong thunderstorms. We don't have anything severe right now, just a lot of lightning and a lot of good downpours coming into 5 Country. We'll continue to monitor this morning and as you start your Friday, but these scatter storms could last on and off. This may not be the only round. If we get more storms to fire up towards the west, it could be a long morning with some heavy rain. So we'll watch the flooding potential and we'll keep tracking the hail and the lightning and the wind and where it goes next. Make sure you keep it here, keep it local. As always, we'll keep you advised.